Hello everyone, welcome to the stream, or welcome to this little update video that I just recorded. Some people might ask themselves, where's the Nintendo conference? So it turns out that Nintendo said in a statement that they don't want that people restream the Nintendo Direct. So all I can say is, oops. But as a result, to not get into further trouble, I unpublished the VODs of on Twitch, and also won't release the my Nintendo coverage on the VOD channel. But to compensate for it, I can just say to you what's my opinion on what we saw on the Nintendo Direct. Overall, I liked that Nintendo Direct, and yeah, I already opened it here. Won't go into too much detail because I don't know, Japanese companies, especially Nintendo, when it comes to their policy of YouTube and streaming and Twitch and so on, is, in my opinion, a very, let's say, outdated company. And they recently opened up and brought their standards a bit up to modern day, so to say. But I remember a time when you wanted to stream, or not to stream, to publish gameplay, let's play or whatever on YouTube, you had to go in a specific Nintendo program, and if you monetize your video as part of this program, the part of your revenue share would go to Nintendo. So a part goes to YouTube, and then the part you get from the ad share would go to Nintendo, and you would keep it. And then there were also all kinds of conditions, I think you were not allowed to stream certain other things and so on. So there was a huge thing just to get into this program, which of course is absolutely nonsensical. We don't have to discuss this in any way, it's just the way it is. And this was just a few years ago, yeah? We're not talking about like, that was 20 years ago. No. That was, I don't know, 3-4 years ago or something. I know when Nintendo changed their policy there. But luckily, at some point they changed it, and you can use footage. But this again is another thing, and it might only apply to Japan, that Nintendo came up with to, I don't know, I wouldn't say screw with content creators, but to just force a weird policy again that, in my opinion, is not that smart. Let's put it that way. It's just, then don't get free coverage and press and so on. Some people pointed out, I haven't looked too deep into this, that it's only applying to Japan because of certain laws in Japan. I don't know. I totally don't care. It wasn't the case for all the other Japanese, like Bandai Namco did not say, hey, you can't restream and upload a commented video on our House of Ashes showcase thing that people were a bit disappointed about, or Capcom or whatever. Yeah, it's it's nonsensical, but that's another topic. So what did I think of the Nintendo Direct from E3 2021? I overall liked it. They showed a lot of very different game, very Nintendo-like, and of course I was really surprised about this game here that you can see on the screen, the Metroid, called Metroid Dread, and it's a new 2D Metroid game in the style of the classics like Super Metroid, the Metroid for the NES, and so on. And I guess it's more in the style of Super Metroid, to be honest, but whatever. And this, interestingly, I don't know, when was the last 2D Metroid game that we got officially? I think they said something like around about 19 years ago, so that is a long time, and a big surprise. This is the 5th game of the 2D Metroid series. The first is, of course, the NES game Metroid, and I think Metroid True is also for the it's also for the NES. Then Super Metroid, and then what was the 4th called? Metroid Fusion. So this is the 5th installment of that series, for people wondering why it was initially introduced in the Direct as Metroid 5. It was pretty great to see. I wasn't fully convinced of the art style, but it looked like it plays well. I think that is the most important part, even though Super Metroid, if you just look at gameplay of Super Metroid today, let me just maybe try to find let me just try to find something really quick, like Super Metroid. I hope we don't get into trouble for this, but whatever. Yeah, Super Metroid walkthrough. Is there maybe I hope it's not commented. Shoutouts to the guy who uploaded. I just mute the audio just in case. Yeah, it's on the Super NES. If we just reduce the size of the screen a bit, it doesn't help too much. But yeah, just imagine this is on a smaller screen, smaller resolution, but the art style, how it looks, still looks fantastic in my opinion. Of course, it has this old school NES charm, but still, it's a really fantastic game. And I like it. It's one of my favorite games, and I think it's also a very, it's not only a true classic, but I think a game that inspired the genre a lot. Of course, the original Metroids should be mentioned there too, but I'm not. Yeah, they are so old that not even I have replayed them. I just saw some footage and maybe started looking some speedruns and let's play of the old Metroid games. I know from the GDQs, for example, but yeah, this game though, Super Metroid I've played though. Not when it came out. I had to play it later. I was too young for a scary game like this. Like when the Super Nintendo was a thing, I was like 6 or 7, 8, something like this. So that was difficult, and games were really expensive. And as a result, at least for a 6-year-old, they were expensive. Let's put it that way. And as a result, couldn't play. Some of the games didn't come out in Germany. It was not the case for this game, but for example, Final Fantasy VI, or as it was called in the US, Final Fantasy III, did not come out in Germany, as far as I know. So I would have to import the game if I wanted to play it, and then it would be English, and I couldn't read it. So it makes no sense playing Final Fantasy if you can't understand what's going on. But that's a totally different topic. Getting sidetracked here again. However, yeah, this game, really fascinating game from the past, looks still great, and I think the art style is a bit timeless, and back in the day, this game looked amazing. This was like, wow, look at this game, look at all the details, look at the animation. That was just, wow, triple A, if you can imagine that. And this game, Metroid Dread, doesn't look like, wow, look at the art style, look at the visual fidelity here. It blows my mind. That is not the case here, which is, in my opinion, a bit sad, if I'm honest, but like I said, it's not the biggest part. The biggest part of the Metroid series is definitely how it looks and how it plays. And that is not how it plays, not as much how it looks, I think. You have to recognize, the looks have to be decent, and you have to recognize it, but it has to play fantastic, have great level design, great bosses, and so on. And I hope if they manage to deliver, this could be a great game. However, I think, that is my fear. If you go with the expectations playing this game, maybe I'm wrong though, but this is a small danger for Metroid Dread. If you go in with the expectation to say, okay, I play this game and it is the same as if I would have played Super Metroid when it came out in the I don't know, when came Super Metroid out? Is it here? Do we have a date here? No, we don't have a date here. Let's ask a friend. Wikipedia really quick. Doing this here very on the fly, like in a stream. When it 1994, I would suggest 1995. Yeah, 1994 it came out. Yeah, if you go with the expectation that this is like playing Super Metroid in 1994, you probably will get disappointed. It's even not clear to me if they manage to just reach it, or do they? I mean, if you release a Metroid game today, like if we look at a Souls Metroid, like whatever you call it, Hollow Knight, for example, which is a fantastic game. It plays fantastic, but it also has this unique and great visual style and nice little ideas here and there. If you look at this, I could see that Metroid Dread might be not considered as good. So I just expect a solid Metroid game. Maybe with some interesting ideas here and there, but I don't expect this to be like a next level game. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe this game is as good and plays as good and has the ideas work out, and they manage to translate this into a game from 2021, or whenever it comes out. And that might be the case. I think it comes out. Do we have a release date? We can click on this card. It comes out in October, so it's a 2021 game. Also, fantastic site here. The shout out to the guy who made this here, the e3recap.com page, which just shows everything that was just announced on E3. And at the bottom, you can even have archives going back to 2014, I guess, when the site first started. And you can sort by press conference and release and whatnot. So really fantastic game, really fantastic site here, made by a fan of this. And that's wrong. But yeah, let's go back to Metroid Dread. So yeah, that is pretty exciting though, and I'm curious how it is. I hope it surpasses my expectation, I have to say. But I also expect this to be maybe just a very solid Metroid game. And say, okay, yeah, that's a solid Metroid game. I don't expect it to have the quality of Super Metroid or some of the Metroidvania games of our time. I don't expect that, to be honest, but maybe I'm wrong. And I would love to be wrong here, to be honest. But I guess that's at least how I'm looking towards this game. Then we have, of course, Breath of the Wild 2. I guess it will have a different title. Nintendo already announced it, but they said, which in my opinion is a bit weird, that the title of this game might be considered a spoiler. But at some point we will know the title before we have played the game. So I don't see how this could change anytime soon. Or is the title just revealed after you've completed the game or in a cutscene inside the game? I don't know. We will find out, I guess, but it's, in my opinion, a bit weird to say, yeah, the title could be a spoiler, so we don't want to release it yet. I don't know. Then it will also be a spoiler when the game is released, right? So you can't never use the title. That makes no sense, in my opinion. Whatever. Breath of the Wild, fantastic game, I think. So that's another topic we also talked on about in the stream. So I never give scores when I do reviews. I rarely do reviews these days. There's also an update coming to more gaming content in the future and seeing how this will work out and so on as soon as I have my Elrond video done, but that's another story. However, I always say that the highest possible score, for me personally, it's just my internal scoring system, which I never use in reviews anyway, is that if a game wants a 10 out of 10, I think it has to be one of the best games of its time, or be at least extremely unique. And then in addition, it needs to influence maybe the genre or multiple games that released in this genre in its time or in the future, or the gaming industry as a whole. So Super Metroid, for example, in my opinion, is a 10 out of 10 because of that, because it has influenced so many people, so many games. Like, the genre is called Metroidvania, even though the original Metroid laid the foundation of it. I think Super Metroid probably made it popular, and considering my generation of gamers and before, some of them probably don't know the older Metroid games, but know maybe Super Metroid. And I guess maybe younger generations don't even know Super Metroid. So that is a thing to consider there. Deus Ex, for example, one of my favorite games of all time, it has definitely had influence on the genre. To this day, we wait for a game that does what Deus Ex did back in the day, just in a modern game on a maybe larger scale. We don't get this, even though Deus Ex also had its problems here and there. Not gonna lie here, but some, for example, complain that the game is a bit too long, has some pacing problems here and there, but that's a different story. Still, what the game did in many ways was outstanding and very influential for, I think, a lot of people who make critiques for games, and also game developers. And as a result, that's, my opinion, also a contender for like a 10 out of 10 game, because it has such a huge impact. You could argue if Dark Souls or maybe Demon's Souls is a 10 out of 10 because of just the Souls-like genre the subgenre was defined by it. Difficult games were made popular. It had an impact on games as a whole. I think we see Dark Souls elements in a lot of other games that are not necessarily Souls games. And even in AAA games, like if you hear the developers say, of the last God of War game, say, we were also inspired by Dark Souls, that, in my opinion, is of course a point where you can say, this game had an impact on the industry. If games many years later on a much, much higher budget say, that was such an astonishing game, it had an influence and it inspired us to also do things different, maybe also making, that's the biggest achievement here, is making games that are a bit more difficult popular again. When Demon's Souls came out, it was a time when games got the Wii was really successful, and new audiences that were more casual, that's for lack of a better word, it could be reached as a result, and then games started to jump on this train and try to make their game more accessible, which makes sense. But there's also an audience, it seems, for people who want to have difficult games, and Dark Souls proved that there is a market for this, and we see the results or the fruits or the impact of this to this day, and that makes this really powerful. I think Breath of the Wild was also a case that is in of itself at least a 9 out of 10 game. The question is, does it have an influence on games? And this, I think, might be the case. We will see in the future. I think it takes maybe a few years till games that where developers, you could argue, okay, the developer probably has played Breath of the Wild in some case, and this had influence on their game design of Title X and Z and Y. I had an example for this, but I forgot, so I can't tell you right now out of my head. But there was also a game announced, and it looked like, interestingly, I think it was Elden Ring, right? Where you said, okay, it's more bigger area, maybe it does stuff that Breath of the Wild does, more condensed and so on. We saw Sable that also had maybe some elements here and there. Of course, the paraglider and so on, and exploring, it's not invented by Breath of the Wild, but I think the combination of elements and what you can do definitely as a whole might have had an impact on how games might be designed. So I think Breath of the Wild might be also a 10 out of 10 contender, and in my definition of this, game has to have an impact on future games, and in of itself be a really good game, or does at least one thing extremely innovative. So we could say, okay, even though it has some problems here and there, some other strengths are so big that it makes good. No, I don't know what the phrase is, but you know what I mean. It makes up for the for the problems it might have here and there. And yeah, Breath of the Wild, and that is the problem with this, is that it might take a year or 2 or 3 or 5 to really consider this game might be a 10 out of 10, and I think that might be the case for Breath of the Wild. So Breath of the Wild 2 might be a highly successful game. How will Nintendo develop the formula of Breath of the Wild further? Nintendo is a very creative developer and company when it comes at least to games, not necessarily to their YouTube politics, and as a result, it's always interesting how did Nintendo get so good at this? It's really, in my opinion, impressive when it comes to first-party games, and that in of itself makes this game, of course, really interesting for a lot of people. Many people want to see, okay, on top of that, it's Zelda, one of the most beloved and legendary game series in video game history. So there's an additional part, to little additional twist to this already, but yeah, you can see that this is of course an exciting game. We saw some footage. It seems the game becomes more vertical. We saw flying islands, which is a setting or a vision. No, it's not a visual theme, but how do you call it? A setting, a theme that I really like the idea of having a world, and then you look up in the sky and there's an island flying above the clouds. I find this incredibly cool. Every time I see this in games, I think, wow, that is so cool. I don't know, it gives me a good feeling seeing this. I don't know, it's kind of a fantasy idea that is not new, but always for me very interesting. And the idea, because I said when we played the Resident Evil 8 playthrough, I said, wow, I like that they did this like in Dark Souls, another Dark Souls inspiration. What you see is where you can go, I called it. And I think this might be the same. You see a flying island, you can go there. I hope. It's not just decoration in the background. Like, it's different to say, oh, we have a flying island there in the background. It's a cool setting. It's nice to look at, for at least for me, because I really like the idea of a flying island. But if you can really go there, you can explore it. There is something for you, maybe. That is fantastic. I think Breath of the Wild did this too. Maybe it was a bit too big for its maybe there should have been more things to uncover, or more interesting things, because stuff became a bit repetitive after some time. Let's see how they solve this, like in this new game. But I like the idea, say, okay, we now have flying islands, and you can have maybe some weird ability. You can fly up there somehow and explore those places. And you have we expand the map not by making it bigger, we expand it to making, building more I can't say the word, verticality into this. I didn't even know. I don't think I said this correctly, and after 20 minutes, my ability to speak complete sentences just diminished a bit. Sorry for that. But yeah, it's Breath of the Wild 2. I mean, there's a lot of talk about this game now, considering that everyone who has seen this and liked Breath of the Wild is probably excited for this. So yeah, I'm also very curious how this turns out. And I expect them to at least reach the level of Breath of the Wild, maybe even expand on it due to the new verticality, maybe due to some new abilities, some new enemy types, and so on. We have seen a bit of it, and it looked interesting. I don't know. We will see how this works, but I think the concept of Breath of the Wild was so solid already, and it was criticized here and there, and I can just see them. What happens if they manage to reach this and fix the problems that maybe existed? For some people, didn't like the decaying weapons in Breath of the Wild, that weapons were destroyed if you used them too much. I thought I can definitely see this, though it leads to you using more different weapons. So in my opinion, it also has a plus on it, but I can see that you don't like it. Maybe they find a better solution for this in some interesting game design idea. I hope they do, and they expand of it, and I think then this game could be as beloved as Breath of the Wild, or even maybe more if they manage to expand. I wish all the success, because I want a new fantastic Zelda game. I think we all want to have good games, and I'm quite positive, because I think especially in the Wii U era, Nintendo really had to, or era, however it's pronounced, had to really deliver every time a game came out. They had to deliver, and they did, in my opinion. The Wii U has some fantastic games, but the console didn't sell that well, and there was a lot of stuff going on. It wasn't done too well, which resulted in this not very successful console. But the games on it are still pretty good, and as a result, I would say it maybe made Nintendo very good at forming those development teams that are able to create games of this highest quality, as we see with Breath of the Wild. There are probably also some games that did not deliver, or under-delivered a bit, or were not that good, or I don't know. It happens, whatever, but Nintendo is definitely capable, especially if there's pressure on them. They really want to have Zelda to be successful, and I think they can deliver here. I'm not very worried that Nintendo screws this up. I think they know what they're doing. They are making a sequel to this game, and this in of itself is a bit of playing it safe, and I hope it's a good sequel. Like Resident Evil 2 was a fantastic sequel to Resident Evil 1. Silent Hill 2 was a fantastic sequel to Silent Hill 1. Dark Souls was a fantastic sequel to Demon's Souls, in a way. And I think, there are some good sequels, or good Part 2 games out there. There's some examples, of course, where the Part 2 is not considered that great, where things did not work out so well. But overall, I would argue that I can see that Nintendo delivers here, and that's my expectation, and we will see how it is when this game comes out. I assume somewhere next year, maybe the year after it. What I also discussed on the stream when we watched the Nintendo Direct was really there's a rumor for ages now that there will be a Switch Pro, so a more powerful version of the Switch, which is probably as a PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox One X, and something like this also for the Switch. That is not unusual for Nintendo. If we think a bit back, that they also had like in their handhelds sometimes little upgrades, or that were more powerful than the previous handheld and so on. But I think in home console, that is I think never happened for Nintendo. And the Switch is also a home console, and this puts it in an interesting spot what they will do. The problem that's not a problem though, but a little observation I have. Like in the Wii era, you had a very successful handhelds with the DS, with the 3DS, then later that also started slow, but it took up a lot of steam. I don't know what all the DS versions were called, to be honest. Was never too big in the Nintendo DS stuff, but whatever. They had this very, very successful handheld. In parallel, they had the Wii, and as a result, maybe the 3DS was in the Wii U time, right? Maybe I'm mixing things up, but the Nintendo DS was a really successful console, and the Wii was a really successful console. They had a successful handheld and a successful home console. The Switch now cannibalizes a bit the handheld market as a home console, and is basically both. It's very successful still, but it's not as successful as if there would be a Switch and another DS version that's also very successful. That's simply not the case right now. On the other side, they cover both markets with the same effort, if that makes sense. So if they release a game, it's also on handheld and on home console, because handheld and home console are the same console right now. And of course, there's also a handheld-only version of the Switch, which should be maybe mentioned, but that's another topic. So the question is, where's Nintendo going from here? If they release another Nintendo Switch Pro, not another, but release one, they definitely define that the Switch will be around for some time. And it also still limits them, in my opinion, because it has to, the games they make, even though the Nintendo Switch Pro would be so much more powerful, it still needs to run on a Switch. So developers have additional work time. I think that would be, I feel like the Switch approach so far was really efficient for Nintendo. Like I said, Mario game that releases on the Switch is on handheld and on home console as a result. They don't have to make like a port or a totally different game, or develop two different games in parallel, one for the handheld, one for the home console or whatever. They have it all in one, and that works pretty well. That it seems a very efficient way to make it. That's, I think, why I assume for Nintendo, even though they cannibalize the handheld market with it, it's a very, very successful console, and a true blessing for them that this concept worked out for them so well. And even I own a Switch, so they did definitely something right, and I'm usually very slow when it comes to buying consoles. But now, interestingly, I originally bought it as a home console, that's to play it docked, and it ended up I use it mostly as a handheld these days, and it's kind of fascinating that I did not follow my plan, because it's, I think, a pretty decent handheld console too. And as a result, if they now release a Switch Pro, when will they release the next Nintendo console, the next generation? That's, my opinion, a huge question. Switch Pro console, when basically committing to that stuff still runs on the Switch too, is staying in this generation. That would mean that the next home console is probably still a few years away. And that would be surprising to me if still the development is held back by this old hardware. Relatively old hardware. I mean, you have to still keep in mind that, sure, you can put in a more powerful processor into it and make all kinds of features. When the battery life does not support this, it becomes not that great of a handheld console anymore. Like we had this with the what was it called, the Game Gear, which, I don't know, you put in 3 batteries or 4, whatever it was, into it, and they're just empty after, or was it 6? I'm not sure. It was probably a lot. It was just empty after a very, very short time of play, and that's not ideal, let's put it that way, for handheld console. If it looks beautiful and it has a lot of power and frame rate is stable, but the battery is empty after 10 minutes. You can build probably a console like this, but it's not necessarily a very useful one, as a handheld at least. So where are they going from here? I could imagine that they might either try to implement now a new handheld market again, or that they continue this idea of console. Like, let's say they make a Switch Pro, and the Switch Pro is a handheld-only console, mostly, or maybe you can dock it or whatever, but its intention is to be, and then there's a handheld market now with the Switch Pro, and then they release a new home-only home console that is just for the TV, not as a handheld console hybrid anymore. And that I could see, but it seems like they're not doing it, because my prediction was that this game, Breath of the Wild 2, will be released as a cross-gen title for it. But that would mean that 2022 a new Nintendo console comes out. And I don't see that, because the Switch is very successful still. And I would say it's only it's in 5 years. Maybe it's then too old. I don't know. It really depends on a lot of things. But I still assume that the console, a new Nintendo console, would be the earliest, would be 2023 for a new Nintendo console. Then the console is 6 years old. That's slowly getting, say, okay, after 6 years, you can think about announcing a new console, or releasing even a new console, maybe 7 years. And that would be fine for the classical Nintendo life cycle, I think. And that's what I expect. But the game, the Breath of the Wild, is announced as to be maybe coming 2022. And considering that the hardware situation currently is also a problem, I don't see that it being smart to release a new console right now. I mean, Sony and Microsoft just did this like I don't know, half a year ago, but still I'm not sure if Nintendo would also want to do the same if they are not pressured to do so. Though it might be at the end of 2022 and then say, okay, maybe that could work, or maybe they remove it to 2022. I'm not sure what Nintendo's plans are. Nintendo is really hard to predict what's going on there, but we discussed this on stream also a bit and give you some ideas what I think might be happening for Nintendo here. Is there anything left to say about this Nintendo Direct? That's the name of it. I don't think so. It's already a longer video than I expected to be. I'm just a chatterbox. And these are my thoughts on the Nintendo conference. I hope this makes up for not showing you actual footage, so you can see this as a podcast or something. I don't know. And yeah, so hopefully I don't get into trouble for all of this. Again, shoutouts to e3recap.com, to the guy who played this here, Sekyomok. Here's a link for his for the thing in case you want to see it. Shoutouts to Wikipedia. So we got all the sources covered. And yeah, I hope that Nintendo's YouTube policy gets a bit more up to date, let's put it that way, in the future, so I don't have to bother with stupid stuff like this. Can I show this to you? Maybe I have to Google it really quick. And I can maybe show you the statement in case people don't believe me. Well, probably you believe me, but let me see if I can find it really quick. Nope, that did totally not work. Will be probably hard to find, but why is it so hard to find? Should have looked it up before I started this recording here. Sorry for this little downtime here. Maybe I find it here. I found it, I think. Okay. There was like a Reddit thread on Reddit Twitch. But, I have to change this because the www.reddit.com version is terrible. So I use always the old one, which in my opinion is far more efficient and faster and easier to read. Really hate the new one. It's better for showing media though, the new one, but the old one for reading text and so on, it's better. But there's an official statement. Yeah, here it is. Nintendo tweeted from the official, it's also by the official Twitch account, that co-streaming today's event is not allowed, differing from years past. While Twitch Gaming has permission to air the show, we won't be airing the event because all creators can't co-stream. And yeah, that is just not so cool. That's the reason why this video here exists in this form. Tell me how you like it. I usually don't create own videos for the what's it called here, for my VOD stream archive on YouTube, and I hope you enjoyed this. These are my thoughts. I'm still not sure where Nintendo is going with the next console release. So far, I don't know. I think I simply can't imagine that they, or it seems strange to me that they would go for a Switch Pro. I would. Just from my perspective, that's my opinion. I asked the question: wouldn't it be smarter to just say, okay, 2023 new Switch, the Switch 2 or whatever they call it comes out? I think that would be the better move. But we will see. We will see how it turns out. And is there anything? Wait, we could. There is like a way to. There was like a way here. This is schedule. That's wrong. Filters. Here it is. Conference. We could double check before we end the stream if there was something else that I forgot about. So this is how you do it. I just found it. Just had to remember how it is. Game and watch thing. It's an interesting idea, but kind of cute. Probably cool for people. Advanced Wars, yeah, I forgot about this. I never was into Advanced Wars, but I know that's a popular series. Really great. We already saw the Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. The first one was a fantastic game. I think this will be too fantastic with some changes. Can move freely and so on during combat and not on these fields, I think it was. So that might be an interesting little change to this. And I expect this to be great. If you really like the humor of it, it might be a great game for you. It's also family friendly and so on. Nintendo, even though it's from Ubisoft, it's a pretty Nintendo game. I think it's unusual to see Mario with guns though. Strange Regard. Oh, we had also Fatal Frame. I think that's a remake of the Wii U version or something, of something old version. I'm not sure. Doom Eternal comes to Switch. Very unusual. I have no idea about this series though. Shin Megami Tensei 5. They showed some gameplay of it. Looked interesting. So if people are into this, they also showed a lot of Monster Hunter gameplay. The other one, the Monster Hunter Stories or whatever it was called, looked interesting. I didn't expect Guardians of the Galaxy coming, the Square game coming to Switch 2. Was a big surprise. So, and for Smash players, it really looks like, from the moves just alone, like a Tekken character. So, and of course it is a Tekken character, but it looks, the moves look like you play Tekken, basically, just that it's Super Smash Brothers, and I think a lot of Smash Brother fans might really like this. So it's a pretty cool addition to the game. And yeah, I think that was just the biggest things. WarioWare might be interesting for some people here. Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, that's the name. What was the other thing? No, it was, I already had this, right? Yeah. The golf game might be interesting for some people. This here, the Worms game, oh boy, the frame rate, it was stuttering and so on. It looked really bad. The just from, like, if you show a trailer, I don't know why it looked so choppy, the gameplay and so on. It's not good if you present yourself and the gameplay looks really like oof. It didn't look, not because the game was visually so impressive. So kind of surprised what's going on there. They probably need to do some optimization there when they want to release it on Switch. But yeah, that is a new Danganronpa that might also be interesting for some people. But I'm not into those games either. And yeah, this year I think is probably a bit of an underrated Zelda. I heard, I have not played it myself. Can't tell too much about it. I know that the motion controls and so on on the Wii were pretty annoying for a lot of people. And was it a Wii game? Interesting question, chat. Zelda Skyward Sword. Let's see. Was it a Wii or a Wii U game? It's a Wii game. Okay, it was right. It's a Wii game, and people didn't like it. They advanced a bit on this. So, in my opinion, that or improved, not advanced, improved a bit on it. So, if that works, it might be a great Zelda for people to play and to play again, maybe. So, it is not bad. It's a bit sad that they did not have like a really big announcement, considering that there's a 35th anniversary for Zelda or whatever it was, which is a bit unfortunate. But on the other side, we also still have to consider that we have this global COVID situation going on, this pandemic, and as a result, a lot of stuff. You have seen this through the whole E3. I think that a lot of big titles were missing, not announced. Some titles that were already announced, we did not hear anything about it because probably plans just got moved back and back and back and further back. As a result, especially with some of the debacles like Cyberpunk 2077, I think developers also might have been a bit more careful when to announce something. I think there was still a lot of uncertainty in the development of a lot of projects. Like, I remember before the E3 started looking up what big AAA games coming up this year, and was wondering, wait, where are the big game names, right? What's going on there? Like, and then only at E3 we got like a lot of release dates. Like we got the Battlefield release. Like Battlefield comes out in a few months already, and we didn't know when it comes out, and we didn't even know about the reveal just until a few weeks ago, and or was it last week? Let me just think. Yeah, I think last week it was revealed, and the release date was revealed at E3 a few days ago. So there's wait, we can make the check thing here out. When does it come out for people curious? Interesting, there are two things in it. 22nd of October. We have now June. So that is in 4 months. This game is out, and yeah, that's not that far anymore. Of course, it's relatively far, but you know what I mean, right? And we didn't know about this game. Usually, you know the release date, like I feel like a lot earlier of those bigger games. Same with, I think, Far Cry. We didn't hear the release date. Then also some other bigger games just popped up. Wait, let me see if I have a list here with the AAA games that were announced at E3 thing. Yeah. Does this work? Yeah. Oh, that's the wrong list. That's my streaming list. That is unfortunate. That is the right list. You can also see this list is public. The games that I consider streaming. This list here. So we got Battlefield, this thing. We got Starfield. We got a really early release date, but that's probably because it's a classic release date, 11th November. I think also Skyrim released at this date, maybe some other games too. We didn't hear about Plague Tale Requiem, but it's not coming out this year. Age of Empires coming out in October. I think we didn't had the release date either. Far Cry 6, I think hadn't a release date either. That's not working. June, a new Sea of Thieves Pirate Life thing. We didn't hear about it. In August, Godfall: Fire in the Darkness, the expansion for Godfall is coming out, and so on. Shin Megami Tensei is coming out in November, so it's pretty early. Later this year, also Halo Infinite comes out. I think the release date for Skyward Sword we already had. I'm not sure about this. Yeah, but you see, let me see if there's other games that I might have put a lower priority on. That's next year. We don't know about that. New World comes out in August, but it's also relatively the releases of it is known for quite some time. I think it was delayed a bit, if I remember correctly. However, for example, this was a surprise. Guardians of the Galaxy. We didn't know about this game until E3, until a few days ago, and it coming out in 26th of October this year already. So there's that. House of Ashes, I think, had not a release date. Forza Horizon comes out in November. We didn't know about this. So what else do we have? Advanced Wars, Rainbow Six Extractions coming out in September. That's even earlier than this. We didn't know about this game either. So you see a lot of games where usually it's not, okay, there's a new Rainbow Six, there's a new or spin-off, there's a new Halo, Far Cry, the classics. Yeah, we didn't know about that. We didn't know if is there a new Call of Duty? Probably not this year. I don't know. So you see that COVID and the pandemic definitely had an influence on schedules, and I think made a lot of release dates very uncertain. So developers were very careful and just said, okay, now we feel confident that we can keep up with it, and as a result, see what is commit to a release date. So that's definitely a thing to consider. So yeah, that's it basically for this video. I hope you enjoyed this very long little podcast-like talk that I did in stream during the conference, and maybe this was a bit more focused and more detailed than what I actually did in the stream. I'm also thought about this a bit in the last few days and so on. So I had a lot of stuff to say still, and also repeat the things I said on stream, which, like I said, there's not a VOD. There is an unlisted VOD of this thing, so the VOD still exists. You can find it if you really search for it. And yeah, it's there on my channel though, but it's not. It won't be a published version of the Nintendo conference because of this year. So I'm not sure if this is only the Twitch policy and does not affect YouTube at all. I don't know. I really don't know. But I don't want to find out because I simply don't. It's not worth the trouble, in my opinion. Sorry for the people who might have missed the live stream and wanted to watch this again. That's also the reason why I delayed this stuff, because I just want to record this and release everything in the right order. So this comes out as a Nintendo VOD, basically. It's a replacement for it. I hope you liked it. Thank you, people, for listening to my rambling here. I wish you a fantastic rest of the day. Let me know how you like this little format here, a free format of me talking alone to some uninteresting pictures in the background for 48 minutes. And yeah, thank you for watching. See you. I will start streaming right after this year. So see you next time, and goodbye.